everyone. Welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how fantastic cantilevers are in Toyotas, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and germs. My name is Tyler, and joining me for another episode of the Snail Trail 4x4 off-roading podcast is the one and only Jimmy Jett. Jimmy, how are you, man?
What up? I'm doing good.
Nice.
How are you?
Doing pretty well.
Awesome.
I'm getting ready for this storm that's already passed but hasn't passed.
Yeah, time travel. I heard there's supposed to be another storm in current time next weekend also. So that this episode might come out right around when that storm is hitting or just has hit.
Sweet.
So you might not be that far off.
Might not be. That's exciting.
But you could be completely off also. We'll see.
That's true.
You know how weathermen
mentally
are.
Or?
Well, all the above.
Okay. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm excited for all the snow we're finally getting. It's freaking March. But, better late than never.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. But I'm not going to get to go play in any of it.
Nope.
So.
But I can.
You can. I have some tracks.
I know.
With 6 on 5.5 adapters.
I've thought about it.
We could set up brackets on your rig pretty quick and easy.
I know. I got a lot of other things I need to do.
So do I.
Wow, maybe. I'm supposed. So this a week ago, I'm supposed to go wheeling.
Yeah.
With Dave after this storm that's coming through. And how funny would it be if I showed up with tracks?
That'd be awesome. That would be super exciting. I would be excited. Like, right? I feel like I have them. They need to get used.
Sure.
I don't care if I don't use them. Like, I do care if I use them or not. But like, if I can't use them, someone needs to go use them.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I mean, I might as well put the brackets on my axles anyway, just in case.
Just in case you just happen to show up and there's tracks magically on Bobcat one day. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm just afraid if I leave my vehicle down here, I'll get more penis stickers on it.
That is a very legit concern.
Yeah.
So, except for this week or last week. So 4-wheel drive 24/7 is coming into town here.
Yeah.
And they're going to be making a stop by the warehouse, the Morphlate warehouse.
Cool.
To do a little show about how Morphlates are made and that they are actually hand assembled here in Sacramento, California, and show a little bit of the process. We're not going to show everything of the process, but Jocko is going to be making his own Morphlate kit.
Oh, cool.
And so we've got custom manifolds, everything kind of stuff. It's going to be a fun time. But what I was trying to get to with this story is that because they're filming, we've had to go through and scrub the whole warehouse and take down all the penises.
All of them?
As many as we could find.
What about the bathroom?
I don't know. I need to, we still have a few more days before I need to go through and look for them all and be like, you guys missed 15 of them over here.
Yeah, only 15.
Only 15. 15 out of the 100 you had up. Yeah, now would be as good a time as any to have them come down and bring
but
Bobcat.
I would bring Bobcat in, they'd sticker it up, but then Bobcat leaves.
That's true.
Yeah. And last time I brought Bobcat into the studio, there was 12 dicks on Bobcat.
Yeah, any car that comes to the Morphlate warehouse is you just check your car before you leave.
Yeah. Thoroughly.
There's also noisemakers that we have too.
Yeah, I know.
So those are fun.
So maybe I'll just take the tracks with Clifford.
There you go. Put them on at your place
and do the install at my house.
There you go. That would probably be a lot safer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's funny.
Okay. Well, some quick updates for you guys because we do have a wonderful interview here with 4Wheel Underground and Brian and talking about all the cool stuff that he has coming up. So let's see. We have a Wagon Tech EX5 Lithium Cube giveaway this month going on. Thank you to Wagon Tech and their new series of lithium cubes that they have coming out. Which is there are some massive upgrades happening on this new version of the Cube. It almost makes me a little sad that I have some of the old versions now because I'm like, dang it, I don't want an upgrade.
Yeah.
But I do think I'm going to have to upgrade to the EX18.
I think I'm going to need to get one too.
There's so many fantastic features,
usability features, not just in off-roading, but everyday life too.
Yeah, in that one. And you guys will get to hear all about those in a future episode as well.
Yep.
So besides that, if you want to get in for that giveaway, then go over to iRate 4x4, go down to the watch list and discuss section, go to Snail Trail 4x4 forum, and all the sign up options are right there for you.
Sweet. I like it. I like it a lot. It's a big fun giveaway for the month of March. We will announce the winner from February as well as FNGs and what's the other one? Birthdays. Thank you.
Yep.
Coming up here very shortly. So that'll be on a Thursday episode. This one here is Monday. We get to learn some fun stuff from Brian at 4Wheel Underground. You know what goes really well with 4Wheel Underground stuff?
No.
Big tires.
Yes, big tires.
Big tires goes really great. It goes really great with 4Wheel Underground suspension stuff. And so you guys all have a chance to win some big tires from Yokohama.
That was a good transition. That was impressive.
I'm getting good at transitioning, Jimmy.
Okay, good. I'll wait for you to come out of the closet someday.
Thank you, sir. And so, we're doing that giveaway with Yokohama tires as well over on the reviews on Apple Podcasts. So go over there, leave a review for the show. We don't really care what it is. Just say something, say hi, say, hashtag. What was that original hashtag we were doing of something you said over and over again?
Things like this,
things of that nature.
Things of that nature.
Yeah, the hashtag things of that nature. Let's bring that hashtag back.
Why?
So, just because it's fun.
Because it's like things of the nature.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't even say it now. I've like blocked it out of my mind.
You have PTSD from it. Your body rejects it now.
Things of that nature.
Yeah. Go over, everybody, leave some reviews over on Apple Podcasts. It really does go a long way to show people at the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast show, the podcast here that we have. If people are searching for a new podcast and they put in, off-roading podcast or 4x4 podcast, something like that, Apple and a lot of other places like to use the number of reviews as a way to be like, oh, let's serve them the Snail Trail show. Or not the Wheeling Wine and Whiskey show, right?
Yeah, so they don't have nearly as many reviews.
People don't like them as much.
Nope.
So, make sure you guys go and leave in some reviews over on Apple Podcasts. And we get to do some fun things with those reviews. As you guys are leaving them, we're giving away swag packs every 50 reviews. So we're coming up on 650. And then at 750 reviews, we're giving away a whole set of tires. And you can get some 40s, you can get 37s, you can get 35s, 33s, or some of those weird metric numbers that no one really knows what sizes they are. So you can do that. You just can't get a sticky compound. So the rules are it has to be a DOT approved compound and under a 20-inch rim. So go and do that. And once we hit 750, we'll get to give away a set of tires with Yokohama for everybody.
Awesome.
Yep.
I was just thinking while you're doing that whole speech that maybe we already did birthdays, but we'll see.
Okay.
Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
We're recording a bunch of episodes before Tyler has his baby. So that's, we're kind of confused when episodes are going to be coming out as well.
Everything's blending together right now. Anyways, let's go over and hear from a good friend of ours.
Yeah.
Brian over at 4Wheel Underground. He's got some fun, new, exciting things coming out this year that he's had in the works and been working on and researching and developing and engineering and trying to find ways to fabricate them in production standards. It's a big task that guy has.
I know.
I'm very impressed with everything that Brian does.
I couldn't do it.
No. And he's got some more fun stuff coming out. So he just keeps it rolling. So we're going to get to hear a bunch of those fun updates from Brian. And I guess after we hear another fun update from Brian here, and then the in between the intro,
in between Brian talking.
Exactly.
Yeah. Brian, you're going to hear Brian in between Brian.
Yes. I love it. All right, everybody, grab your favorite drinks, grab your favorite snacks, grab some nachos. I love me some nachos. And we'll be right on back with Brian from 4Wheel Underground.
The 4Wheel Underground website just got an upgrade. Come on by and check out the new functionality, new photos, and new pricing. Finally works on mobile too. Visit 4wheelunderground.com and find your new suspension today.
Oh, welcome back, everybody, to the show. This is the main show, the big time of Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. We like to bring some fun stuff to your guys' ear holes on Mondays, and this is no exception. We have a gentleman back here in studio, sort of, kind of. He's here in spirit, I guess.
Not in studio.
Not in studio. Yeah, we had a studio didn't want to cooperate today.
No.
But we have on the line, we got Brian from 4Wheel Underground back here with us today to talk about life and see how things are going. How you doing, Brian?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, good to have you back on the show. I know that
Thank you.
Yeah, people get to hear your voice quite a bit, but I don't know if we've had you back on since that first suspension episode. We did the in-depth suspension talking about links and geometry.
Yeah.
That was that was 22, wasn't it? That was a while ago.
Yeah, man.
Oh man.
Was it
that
22?
long? Jeez.
Jeez, time
I
goes
think that's
by.
right.
Wow. Yeah, man. This has been a long time coming here to get you back on the show because you've had a lot of really cool stuff going on with 4Wheel Underground lately. I feel like Jimmy and I are kind of lucky because we get to text you all the time and talk with you pretty often about the fun stuff you've been doing, the fun things you've been up to. And we're relaying that to listeners, but we figure it's time. We need to get you back on so that listeners can hear it directly from your face.
My face. Excellent.
Your face. About what you've been up to, man. I think
all about Brian's face. All right.
It's the Brian Face show today. So
that's it.
Man, that might be the title of the episode. The Brian Face show.
Yeah.
Goodbye, chair.
That's funny. Well, let's start. I think there was a cool thing that happened in the past year and a half or so since we've had you on the show. You went and are no longer a bachelor. Is that correct?
I am no longer a bachelor. That is correct. I finally got married.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Last September. It was a whirlwind. You know, they say that, and no amount of telling you that can prepare you for it. You got to go experience it yourself. But yeah, it's definitely a whirlwind. That's for
sure. Yeah.
This is number 2 for you, right?
No, this is number 1. The first one I was lucky enough I actually wasn't married to. Thank God.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome then. Congratulations. Yeah. You skipped out on the first marriage. That was my game plan too. Getting married at 40.
Yeah. My lifelong dreams come true.
Yeah.
Nice. How was the wedding overall? Was it did you guys have any fun events going on with it, or was it kind of your typical wedding?
It was actually at my parents' house. They got a beautiful backyard, beautiful view of the mountains, couple acres. And so we kind of went with the rustic theme and mood lighting and a sunset wedding with hay bales and whatnot, whiskey bar, and we did street tacos and whatnot. So
nice.
Sounds awesome.
Jimmy's like, I want to
drooling over here. Whiskey and tacos.
Lots of guacamole, lots of chips, lots of whiskey, had some mead, a couple IPAs here and there, and a DJ, and just said, guys, have fun and do whatever you want, just don't burn down the house.
Nice. Don't invite me then.
My type of party.
That's really cool, man. That sounds like a fun laid back thing. I've never had mead at a wedding before.
I don't think I have either.
Right?
Oh, you guys have had mead, right?
We've had mead, just not at a wedding.
Yeah.
Not at a wedding. Well, I like to be unique, so
it's such a cool wedding drink too, having mead there. We actually have a meadery here in the Sacramento area in Rancho Cordova. They've got some pretty good options on mead, and that was, first time I had mead was a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah, your employee Sean went there and brought some bottles back for us to sample. That was fun.
Yeah, I accidentally tried mead. It wasn't intended. I was on a date in the downtown Prescott area, the old historic area, and walked into kind of like a spice shop, and I was kind of looking for a bathroom, and I saw this staircase in the middle of the floor room, and it just went down. It didn't go up, and I, well, what the heck is down there? and I see a waiter walking around in a white shirt, black pants, carrying drinks. I'm like, what is going on down there? And so we walked down there and found this Superstition mead bar down there, and went, oh my God, what is this? Sat down, and like 3 hours later, a couple flights, you were like, maybe we should take a taxi.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I actually purchased 10 pounds of honey.
Oh, did you?
To attempt to make my own mead at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Make sure it doesn't explode on you, because if it does, it's very sticky to clean up.
Yes. Yes.
Do you have experience with that, Brian?
Sticky messes?
Sticky messes exploding.
Sticky messes. My buddy Chris, who was at the wedding, he tried it a couple times, and the second time he had it in his bedroom and it popped. Ooh. And the wife wasn't very happy about that.
No. I would think not.
Do you still have 10 pounds of honey sitting around, Jimmy?
I do. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, honey doesn't go bad.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
Is that why you like PB&H so much? You bought 10 pounds of honey? And...
Yeah. Yeah. I actually haven't used any of it. It's still in a jar waiting for me to ferment it. But
distilling is such an awesome thing. I would love to learn more. I'm totally a noob at it. I know nothing, but it is definitely something.
Yeah, it's a fun process. And when you have a wife that's a science teacher, she enjoys that process too.
Oh, that's better, but totally worse, because that's going to feed your addiction even more.
Yeah. She gets all nitty, or into the fine details of everything, telling me cool. what the scientific name is when the yeast is eating the sugars and, when it outputs the alcohol. I'm like, wait, it's just pooping out alcohol, right?
It's eating and pooping. Yeah,
that's really what it is. It's eating sugar, pooping alcohol. That's all I need to know.
But that's got to be really helpful if you're reading some how-to book and they start, giving those same similar kinds of definitions and whatnot. At least now you know what the heck they're talking about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or she does.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, you just nod your head. Yes. Sure.
Tastes good or doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Higher alcohol content, please.
Yeah. Champagne yeast. Add. Got it.
There you go.
Nice. So you got married.
I got married. Yeah.
So that means that came with another person in your life, right?
Two others.
Two other
people.
Yeah. Wow.
Stepson, stepdaughter. Mm-hmm.
Stepping into the daddy role.
Been there before. I was there on the last one.
Okay.
Loved that one. That one called me daddy from the age of 3. So yeah.
Wow.
I'm totally fine with it. These guys are sweet as hell. These are very good kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an awesome family I married into. So
sweet.
That's cool. How old are they?
Yeah. What's the ages of the children?
Going on 14 and 17.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
And if they're sweet now, that's an excellent thing.
Yeah, right.
Because that's usually not an age that's a good time.
No, these two are very well behaved. So.
Nice. Well, that's great.
Do you have them welding yet?
No, they don't weld.
Not yet.
Not yet. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I think one's going to be an engineer. I don't know what the other one's going to be.
Hey, so what kind of engineering?
Undecided at the moment. It's probably electrical or electronic.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fun. If I had to go back to college and do it again, I'd probably go back and do electrical engineering. So.
Yeah. I wish I knew more about it. When it comes to electronics, I am really useless.
You and me both.
I'm constantly, babe, I need your help. What is this? Oh, just click OK. All right. Move on to the next sheet.
What's a ground wire?
Yeah, what is
it? Pretty much.
Are they supposed to be on fire?
I have literally screwed up wiring 2 wires.
Yeah.
I've screwed it up. Why is the refrigerator I just wired not working? I blew the fuse. Why did I blow the fuse?
Why is it heating, not cooling?
Yeah,
shoot, dang it.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Congratulations on that front as well. Now getting to be a dad, kind of, I guess, second time now, and 2 kids. So
yeah, boy and girl.
Let's see what else has been going on with 4Wheel Underground. I know you've had you're working and have been working on actually quite a few products that we've talked about, and then I think all three of us have talked about. Where obviously there's a really big one that you've been showing videos on Instagram of. I don't know if we want to get, we don't really want to get into the weeds yet on it because we're going to do a full episode specifically on it. But it has to do with taking coilovers and mounting them horizontally and making that work with a vertical movement of an axle. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, sure. Yes. The cantilever system, the rocker arm. So yeah, we've been trying to come up with a way to solve the shock mounting issue on the 4Runner. And, your traditional methods are just kind of like mount it on the axle, notch the frame, punch a hole in the sheet metal, try to cover it all back up so that you're weatherproof and weathertight and noise resistant and all that stuff. But it just gets complicated quickly. There's just, what do you do with the interior? What do you do with the lack of room that you lost? You're going to mount the coilovers closer together on a narrow axle than you would on a wide axle. So how do we make it universal? And what about wheelbase changes? And the list just kind of goes on and on and on. What do you do? And we tried the underbed system, which Tyler, you've got on your second gen 4Runner. And it works, but it has its own limitations. And one of those limitations is the amount of wheel travel and the ground clearance.
Yeah.
You're sacrificing a little bit on both of those. And the idea of going to a cantilever has just really been kind of the cream of the crop idea because, trailing arms aren't going to be any better. You're going to lose your back seat if you try a trailing arm system on a 4Runner.
Yeah.
So we were kind of forced into it. I resisted it for a while and had to do quite a bit of study on it. But right now what we've got is a system on a 37. I think we've got a 24-inch ride height, 6 inches of vertical up travel, 10 inches of vertical down travel on a 10-inch shock. And you're not losing any ground clearance underneath the axle. So you got 16 inches straight up and down. And we are using, I think, 9 3/4 inches of that 10-inch stroke.
Wow.
So we are smashing the little rubber boot at the bottom of the shock and using up every bit of it we can. But there's no loss in, I don't believe there's going to be a loss in valving or spring rate performance on this thing. Just because of the way it swings. And I know that was really kind of one of the things that we wanted to hold true to is, as a company, I've always prided myself on having really good physical geometry on the components that will never put you in a bad situation. I certainly wanted to maintain that on this, but this was also first time I've ever done a cantilever. So I had to do a lot of studying, a lot of watching, and then there has been, we've been going back and forth trying to dial this thing in for like the last 8 months just to try and find the best spot to put everything. So.
Yeah, it's where do you go to research how cantilevers work? They're not super common in the off-road industry. The only place I've seen them more common at is the hot rod industry, where they're trying to slam vehicles and there's no room to put shocks in vertically. So they have to put them in horizontally. Is that right? Kind of where it is or yeah?
Well, it's a little bit of that, but then it's, believe it or not, I had to study shock absorbers more and why a lot of people hesitate on cantilevers. And without, as you said, getting into the weeds on it, one of the issues is that they can become a digressive wheel travel to shock valving situation very quickly. So you're losing your ratio, and instead of progressively getting stiffer, it reaches this apex all the other direction, and now it's becoming softer. And that's always an issue when people are trying to get the most performance out of a system. If they want to trade wheel travel for that progressive versus digressive situation. And I will sacrifice wheel travel. I don't want the digressive. So
Gotcha. Okay.
Is there a concern with running a shock horizontally? Like I've only ever, you really only ever see shocks vertical. So if the oil is laying or nitrogen or whatever is internal on the shock is laying horizontally, does it function properly?
As long as your shock has some reservoir on it, it could technically be an internal reservoir. It could be a piggyback like what we did. And it could be a remote reservoir. But as long as it's got a reservoir on it where the nitrogen and the oil are separated by that floating system, you're fine. Yeah. You can lay the thing. You can technically run it upside down if you want.
Cool.
Nice.
Okay. Right. That makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So you're running a 10-inch shock and getting 16 inches of vertical travel. And so that's essentially full bump to full droop.
Yes.
Okay.
Full bump to full droop is 16. And I should mention that it's getting, I think it's 23 inches articulated measured at the wheel hub itself. I measured to the flange where the studs are for the Toyota locking hub on each side. I believe that was 23 or 24 inches.
And what's the WMS axle you're using that on, testing it on right now?
That is a 65-inch wide axle.
Okay. So slightly bigger than an FJ. I think FJ80s are 63 and a half, 63.
Yep.
Yeah, 63 and a half. So an inch and a half wider than an FJ80 axle. And you're getting, 16 inches of vertical movement and 23 inches of articulation.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Yeah. With a 10-inch shock. That's
with a 10-inch shock. Yeah. And there's no poking into the sheet metal. So, hopefully I've done my job and made this thing as easy as possible to install. Mm-hmm. And you don't, if you're already going to undertake the project of, cutting and grinding and welding, mounting this should just make it really, really simple because everything's keying in around the body mount and it's vehicle specific. So it's not a DIY, so you shouldn't have to do a whole lot of cutting and grinding and fitting and whatnot. This is, I think the only cutting and grinding you're going to do that isn't, like, hey, you're going to have to notch the frame rails to put the bump stops on is the length of the shackle that goes from the rocker arm down to the axle.
Okay.
That's it.
Nice. That's impressive to be able to make, because I feel like the off-road industry tries to stay away from cantilever mainly because of its complexity. That's the number one reason why I keep hearing. I keep talking to people about cantilever setups, and I want to do a cantilever, and everyone's like, "You don't want to do that. It's way too complex. You're just adding more complexity into the suspension system." And it's like, I mean, you're adding a little bit more complexity, but as long as you're making the component strong enough to handle. Is it extra forces? I mean, is that a myth? Is there concern about having more complexity there? What?
It's a ton more complexity.
Okay.
There's so many more moving parts. You wouldn't think so. You're like, well, it's just a rocker arm, like an anti-sway bar, and then you're bolting the shock halfway up it. Like, how complex can it be? But when you're trying to, and it's one thing to do it as a custom application. And say, hey, we got it right. It's another thing to try and do it and make it mass produced enough that with variations from the vehicle or the installer or how the person wants to set up, like they don't want to move their wheelbase or something. Hey, I have different amount of up travel, but ride height, tire size. Doing that and trying to make it a production item, that's the challenge. So now any of your not safety issues, but any of your normal tolerances that you would have on a one-off application, you've got to take that and ratchet it up, and your tolerances in the design itself have to be even better. They have to. You can't reach that extreme end and say, "Oh, it's perfectly fine. Look, we're not anywhere near past." Or anywhere close next to 180 degrees from the shackle to the pivot point. We don't have to worry about the system inverting. Well, no, wait a minute. We have to take into consideration that This is going to go on 20 vehicles, and all 20 of those vehicles, maybe 2 of them could be the same. The rest of them are all going to be different.
Yeah.
So you know, hey, sitting at 160 degrees, hey, we're all good. No. You need 150 because there's going to be that one guy who pushes the envelope to try and get an idea travel, flip something in the wrong direction.
Gotcha.
So,
that makes sense. So you're having to plan in what other people might think and might try and do in order to install these or maximize its performance on a lot of different vehicles and a lot of different axles.
Correct.
Jeez.
You start thinking about the what ifs. What could go wrong? What could somebody do with this? And that's what you're trying to essentially plan for ahead of time.
Yeah.
So when you're playing this like mental game of figuring this out, are you actually restricting yourself because you're not getting the best that you possibly could because you have to hold yourself back to make it work on so many different applications?
Yes, I could have gotten more out of the system if like axle width is an issue. So the cantilever arms had to be designed with a particular shape in mind, which shortened the connecting shackle from the rocker arm down to the axle. And so had axle width been wider, I wouldn't have had a tire clearance issue that I had to concern myself.
So is there a minimum axle width that this works on?
I was lucky in getting it to work with a 65. Like I did everything I could to get it to work. Me and my buddy Steve, who owns SH Fabrications, he's been working on it with me, and we can't get any more out of it on the 65. If you wanted more wheel travel, we'd have to go to like basically be full width.
Right.
Yeah.
But so would it not work on my Toyota mini truck axles because the wheel would articulate and hit the cantilevered suspension? Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
The arm sits outside. So one of the things I'm always concerned about is where the shock is in relation to the bump stop at full compression.
Okay.
I'm not one who subscribes to the idea that it's okay or best practice to put the air bumps 16 inches mounted inside of the coilovers, and essentially you're bumping like say 14 inches from center of the axle.
Okay.
Because your air bumps would only ever come into play if you launch the truck and happen to perfectly land both sides of the vehicle at the same time, as far as like left and right.
Yeah.
So you essentially, in articulation, your bump stop completely useless, which means those bump stops are never being used except for on paper.
Right.
Yeah.
So
or you hit a bump like Tyler.
Yes, you hit a bump. Yeah. Well, that's exactly why. You know, that's why those bump stops are positioned where they are. Is we want those scenarios in which you're not planning for that bump stop to engage and save that shock. You know, I don't like the idea of bumping to the shock bracket or the bolt itself. Mm-hmm. You got a 1/2-inch bolt. Maybe you're running a shock hoop and you're asking that shock and that bolt to carry the weight of the vehicle as opposed to the frame rail and a bump stop, which are specifically designed.
That's a really good point. I know that with my old leaf spring setup, I had asked people about different ideas for bump stops, and there was a lot of people that said, "Oh, just get this bump that like goes on your shock shaft." And what it does, it creates a rubber spacer between the bottom of your shock and the body of your shock. And I was like sitting there, I'm like, well, that seems like a terrible idea. Why don't you're not, the whole point of a bump stop is to protect your shock, in my opinion.
Right.
Right. By adding that little rubber spacer in your shock shaft, all the force of bumping is still on the shock body. And
correct.
So,
it loads up the bolts. It loads up the bottom of the body itself. I mean, they put them on there, right? Like, so I'm certainly using it in this design. It's just not the primary bump.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to engage in my mind. If you're at full articulation, if you can compress an air bump at least 1 inch, you are taking a ton of force off of your coilover. And that's what I'm.
Semi-related question. So I'm trying to visualize 26 inches of articulation here, 23, sorry, of articulation. So that means if you're pulling up the rear axle, you can move the wheel hub up 13 inches and your other wheel hub goes down 13 inches on the same axle. Is that essentially what's going on with the 26 or 23 inches of movement?
Well, the shock's not 50-50 on it at that ride height. So the shock is probably 2/3 compressed. Okay. So your up travel in, at least in articulation, is like roughly 9. Okay. And then the rest is droop.
Gotcha. So in order to kind of visualize that, because a lot of people like to measure articulation through going up on a ramp, lifting on a forklift, doing a CTI trailer, corner travel index. Mm-hmm. If you were to say lift the front tire on a vehicle with a forklift, a front driver, and articulate out the entire vehicle, if you have 23 inches of articulation in the rear, can you essentially guesstimate how much your total vehicle articulation is going to be by taking that number and roughly doubling it, assuming your front gets similar amounts of articulation as the rear?
I mean, if you are trying to do that, yeah, you can. I mean, you could easily sit there and say double that plus chassis flex and wheelbase. So therefore, I should be able to get my tire on a 50-inch tire.
Jesus Christ!
Do you remember what your arc is on? Oh, but we measured overall.
Yeah, well, I measured. Yeah, I didn't measure one axle, right?
Yeah.
I didn't measure my articulation on just one axle. I measured just by picking up one corner of the vehicle and seeing how high up it went.
Yeah, because that's when Brian said that and he said 23. I'm like, wait a second. I grabbed the paper.
That's what made me think of it.
I know that's what I was going to bring that up. Because I brought it up.
If you only take into the consideration one axle, like you're just doing it on blocks, it's very unimpressive. And you're like, oh, that's nothing. I only knew the axle like 15 inches and, you know, the shocks are all maxed out. Like that's horrible. But when you start airing down the tires, you take into consideration chassis twist, and then you also the front end. Yeah, that's why you can take. I think you've got 14s and 12s, right? So you're probably sitting at 23 inches articulation in the front on yours, just because of how wide your axle is, right?
I don't know. I haven't measured just a single axle. That's the thing. But I've measured, picking up the whole vehicle, and I can go up to 43, 44 inches aired down underneath the front tire if I go up that far. So, I mean, and that's everything, right? So articulation front, articulation rear, chassis twist.
Yeah. And I would bet that if you had, this cantilever in the back, and you had 16-inch coilovers in the front, you're probably sitting at something like, you're probably sitting at like 56 inches.
Oh my God!
Wow.
With your axle width combined with all of that, it's crazy. And
that's nuts.
Well, and just to bring to circle it all around, because we did the measurements also with Bobcat. So, and Bobcat's, a leaf sprung vehicle
on Toyota
axles. When we lifted the front of Bobcat, I got 29 inches of up travel for both the front, but that's everything. That's everything.
Right.
And you're getting 23
just in one axle,
just on one axle.
Correct. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's fun, isn't it?
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
Yeah. Can't wait for that one to actually get launched. Yeah. We need some, as soon as this one is finished, we're looking for, the next vehicle that we can cantilever, which hopefully is, second gen runners, first gen runners, even like first gen tacos.
Nice.
I'd like to have a kit specifically for all of those.
Yeah. Well,
that way the installation is easy.
So is this the kit that you're currently making? Is it only for third gen 4Runners?
It is, because of how complex these systems are, this is not a DIY. It is not like, oh, I'll buy that. Like, you buy it and you want to go try it on the Suzuki Samurai, do not call me for tech support. It did not happen. I do not want to go down that road.
Right.
Maybe we'll do a DIY version of it. But like I said, there's a lot that can go wrong. So it's tough. There's a lot to these things.
Yeah. Well, and that's another reason I think we can do an entire episode dedicated to this kit, just to talk about geometry and how to figure out all the moving parts. Because I know that the cantilever suspension, not like the rocker arms, fairly straight up and down the majority of the time, but the shock is rotating, so it's like that changes the stress on the shock at different points in the rotation. And there's so much going on that we could definitely jump into an entire conversation on this.
Yeah. Those connection shackles are taking a lot of force.
Wow. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we move off of cantilevered suspension, though, tell us about the sway bar.
Yes, that's what I wanted to get to.
Okay.
Oh, the sway bar. So should I take the long road or the direct road?
Let's take the direct road, because we're going to do a whole episode on this.
We'll do the long road next time.
Yeah.
So there's a sway bar integrated into the very center of the pivot point of the rocker arm for this cantilever. So if you decide that you want to purchase this kit, you will have the option as to whether or not you want it with or without the sway bar. So there's no bushing. It's just, there's one right down the barrel, right down the middle of it. And you get to lock and unlock it with a selectable hub.
That's so cool.
Clever. Yeah.
Right. So you're using a selectable hub, like on the front of an axle of a vehicle on a spindle.
Yeah. Yes.
And you can choose to turn, and it's a manual on off switch for a sway bar.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we'll put a drive flange on the passenger side, a literal locking hub on the driver's side. When you get out the air down and lock up your front hubs, you can choose to disconnect your rear anti-sway bar if you like, if you want.
That is ingenious. That is so
That's
smart.
So cool, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that's super clever. I think that's a huge benefit that your cantilever system has over. I mean, there's not many options out there in the first place of cantilever systems, but the big things that I think are really going to set you apart is you're using a spindle on bearings for the rocker arms and everything, which means they're going to last a lot longer. They can take a lot more force. And
that is one of the,
and the sway bar is integrated with everything. So it's like, it's all for packaging purposes. It's a super clean packaging, because that's one of the issues with cantilever is there's a lot more moving parts and a lot more things back there now and things moving around that it can be really difficult to package them.
Absolutely. And those are two items that would want to take up and occupy the same space normally. So this just kind of simplifies it, and there's no extra parts to buy. There it is, done.
Yeah. That's super cool.
Yeah. Super smart. Very clever, Brian. Good job. Yeah. Kudos. Pat yourself on the back.
Yeah.
When I know it works and it's functioning and we can get it on a couple more vehicles, then I'll relax.
Cool.
All right.
I like it. Let's see. What else have you been up to? There's a couple other things. There's a really neat skid plate system you've been developing and coming out with. Explain that a little bit.
The whole time I've been doing this off-road thing, I've always used the front range off-road, what a lot of guys refer to as the horse collar cross member on the back. They can bolts to the back side of the transfer case. And I have such mixed feelings from customers on it. Like, some guys love it. I certainly had no problems with it. And I've got other guys that swear they will never run one or run another one, whatever it may be. And I have battled this for years going, what do I do? What do I do? And every time I tried to dream up something, I was making it way too complicated. And a customer of mine by the name of Mark Welliver, hopefully he has no problem with me saying his name. I don't believe he will, but he came up with an idea, and between him and another guy, and I can't remember the other guy's name, I saw the light at the end of the tunnel and said, I finally know what I'm going to do for a skid plate. But my biggest issue with it was that all the skid plates that are out on the market are just a solid layer 3/8 plate. And I personally know guys that have bent multiples of those things, and they have to just go buy another one. So I told myself that if I was going to do this, I was going to do it, and I was going to make it stronger than just one piece of 3/8 plate. And so we're building one. It's all 10 gauge, which I know at first you sit there and go, that's not stronger than 3/8 plate, Brian. That's, that's a little bit bigger than 1/8 inch.
Yeah.
But what we did is we took a cue from all of the desert guys and the independent suspension guys, and we built the skid plate like you would build a lower control arm. So it's a boxed design about 1 inch thick as far as the sheet metal goes, and it's all internally ribbed like you would have on a lower control arm for a race truck or a lift kit, like the Marlin Crawler one or items like that.
Yeah.
So it would offer more rigidity, not bend. It would work with our 3-link systems, allow for most or any of the Toyota transfer case mounting that you typically see, stronger, lighter, and then we're to top it off. I'm in love with the idea of using UHMW. So we decided to put the UHMW, which if you don't know what that is, it's that cutting board material you see at the butcher shop or on your kitchen counter at home. And so we're using that on the bottom. So you have a nice, smooth, slick surface, and we're trying to create the flattest belly we can from the perspective of this is how high our link geometry already is. And from that point to the next link geometry in the back of the vehicle, we want to create a flat belly. And this is stage 1.
That's pretty cool. Cause I know that was one of my big concerns when looking at links and going to links. And I know I think I talked with you about it when we were discussing 4-wheel underground suspensions, is that the link brackets for the rear, I was like terrified about having them be hanging in catch points for going over rock.
Right.
Now that I've had the system been using it for 7-8 months, it hasn't caught on anything that I'm aware of. So it's totally a false concern of mine, but being able to kind of create a flat belly at that point means that anybody who does have a concern of that and may be looking at slipping and sliding because they do keep a lower center of gravity on their vehicles than I do. That's an awesome feature. Yeah.
We wanted to, the whole concept of the suspension design that we've been doing the whole time is to make it as buggy-like as possible. But, I don't believe the factory frame rail is capable of being a buggy. It's a frame rail. It is what it is. So
you're saying I don't have a buggy at home, Brian?
Well, you have very close to a buggy at home. You really do. But what, like Jimmy's really going to see a benefit here when he does front and rear, because he's got triangulated system front and rear. And the 4 low points on the suspension then are the lower link connection points back to the frame. Mm-hmm. You're going to be able to make a ladder bar frame at those points and cage that in, which will stiffen your frame rail. That also gives you a place to mount stuff. You can put up your battery down there, an extra drive shaft down there, maybe a small hot dog air tank if you want. So the whole concept from the beginning was really to make the bottom of it, it sits a little lower than the factory frame does, but when you cage it in, you get to slide over an obstacle rather than hang up on a bracket. And that was kind of the goal from the beginning, was to just, I can't do anything about the ground clearance because I'm very particular about how the geometry comes out on these link kits. And so the next best thing to approaching ground clearance was, how do we make it smooth and flat on bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah. You described it very well to me one time about this skid plate is more or less creating a subframe.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that when you said that to me, it like all clicked. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
It's just, like you were saying, it's an additional frame that's connecting your link brackets and making a flat skid plate at the bottom and utilizing UHMW to create a softer collision point and slipperier when you're getting on the rocks that slides you all over. And
exactly.
And for the listeners out there that aren't quite sure what UHMW is, it's on almost all of the Ultra 4 rigs out there on their belly pans and front bars and rocker sliders. Almost every Ultra 4 rig out there has this on them.
Yeah, rock crawling, comp rigs, comp buggies.
All of them have it. It's actually an idea that I've had to make bumpers and sliders and skid plates with for Snail armor for a long time, but I never got around to do it. So I'm proud you did.
And you know what? I can't take credit for the idea by any means. It's something that, the rock crawling crowd has been doing for probably 15 years.
Yeah.
And just nobody ever thinks to do it for production. Aluminum is an attractive idea in the sense that it has a weight savings, but as far as performance goes, aluminum is probably the worst because aluminum does not slide. A rock hits that and you're glued to that rock.
Yeah, it gouges.
Yeah.
It gouges, right. Steel, okay, it's nice, it's cheaper, but it's also very, very heavy. So, I said, heck, if the low point on this thing has to be as low as the link arms, then it better be very, very slippery.
Right.
So with the UHMW board panel you're putting on this, I assume that's going to be removable too. So if somebody beats and chews up their UHMW, they can just go get another panel, right?
Absolutely. It unbolts. I think there's like 18 flathead Allen wrench bolts on it that are all tapered. And so if you chew one up, come get another one, put one on if you want.
That's cool. Is the whole kind of subframe and everything that I assume it has a T-case mount in it? That's kind of the dual purpose of this all, right?
It does. Yes. I'm sorry. I forgot that part, but yes, it mounts your transfer case as well as protects it. So it is, cool. I think I'm going to have to take Jimmy's advice on this one and make a version that is compatible for leaf spring.
Oh,
that'd be fun.
I'd like that idea.
Does the whole thing the whole sub, I don't necessarily say the subframe, but the panel that the UHMW is on, which is then attached to the subframe, is that all bolted to the subframe so you can pull out the transfer case holder mount as well to easily access your transfer case for maintenance?
So what this is basically a really fancy version of angle iron welded to the inside of the lower leaf bracket, and then the skid plate bolts to that.
Okay. Nice.
Cool.
And then the subframe system is slightly different in the sense of that there is a small bracket that will weld to the backside of the lower link bracket, and you can run a piece of tube from it back to your rear links.
Okay.
And that becomes basically like essentially like a rocker guard.
Yeah.
For the link brackets themselves.
Nice. That's cool. I'm going to have to get in touch with you about that as well. When Ori and Alex did my cross member, we took the Trail Gear cross member, which is a pretty heavy duty steel plate, and they modified it so that it can be bolted to your link brackets, but the bolt and the access to the bolts and the nuts and the hardware is really tight and really annoying to get to my transfer case now.
Yeah, you know what? And that's a good point. One of the things we did on this is make sure that all of the nuts on the top end of this thing, they all have nut captures on them. So you don't have to try and get a wrench up inside and, you got a hot exhaust or something like that, or you're not burning yourself on it essentially. So
yeah. Okay, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah,
Nicely done.
How far are you on that product, or do we have an idea of an estimated timeline?
I've got the very first one. I'm waiting for the laser shop to finish producing so that we can test fit it. And then as soon as that does, and hopefully it goes well, then, I'll probably place an order for 20 or 30 of them with the laser shop at that point.
Cool.
Sweet.
All right.
So yeah.
So prototype number 1's coming out right now, and we'll see how it goes.
Yep. We're still waiting for that to come in from laser. Yep.
Cool.
Sweet.
Well, hopefully you're better at it than I am when I'm doing my tailgate panels, because it takes me like 8 versions to figure out a damn flat piece of aluminum that has holes in it.
I don't think I'm any better at it, man. Sorry.
Well, that makes me feel a little better, I guess.
You know what? I've got the first one priced out. I've got it on order from Laser. I'm waiting for it, and I'm still talking to my CAD guy going, "Could change this, move that. I don't like this. How about this?"
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I can't imagine how complex stuff like that would be. All my stuff's 2D, like it's flat.
You know what, dude? I thought for sure, it's just a skid plate. I'm going to knock this out in like a week or two. This would be a piece of cake. I've been doing this for like 3 freaking months on the same part.
That's funny.
That's good.
So why don't you tell us about the website? You've got a few new things going on the website, as well as actually a functioning, working, mobile-friendly website now?
For the first time ever in 4Wheel Underground history, it is compatible on your iPhone.
Nice.
Yeah, we just launched it. I think it came out probably 3 or 4 weeks ago is when it finally, not even through that, I'm just 3 weeks ago. Yeah, 3 weeks ago, it finally launched. Got rid of the old version, got it all updated. A lot of the issues that a lot of users were having are remedied and fixed. Everything is functioning the way it's supposed to. Yeah, you can finally see it, on your phone. You don't have to use a PC. So nice. Shipping is fixed on. There's a lot of things on that a lot of little issues that were nagging us that are finally resolved. So if you've not wanted to go to the 4Wheel Underground website just because of those issues, please go give it a visit, because those are all fixed now. You can actually see it on your phone.
That's cool. Yeah. I really like the layout of the new website. I think that's neat. You have a couple of videos there on the homepage that automatically load and play of suspension working as a vehicle's driving down a bumpy road kind of thing.
Sure.
And the way that everything's kind of laid out, I think it's going to be a lot easier to shop and find what people are looking for now and see the options that are available and get to the answers that they're looking for their suspension stuff. Yeah. So, yeah. And this one actually has a Q&A section that we will be filling out. That way, if you got questions, at least it's there. Whether you choose to read it or not, that's totally on you. Perfect. I know that reading stuff can be very difficult for customers sometimes, me included.
I'm
not outside of that. So
yeah, I'm on both
I'm
ends
guilty
too. Yeah, absolutely. But you have some new pricing or new savings and a few additional key features going on with the website.
We do. It's one of those things where you start with a certain vendor and things get priced out, and over time you kind of get things whittled down and fine-tuned and whatnot. And so basically what we've been able to do is set up the suspension systems so that the more you buy, the more you save. And so everything on the suspension systems page, which you know you're on the suspension systems page because you'll have the option of buying coilovers, of bump stops, limit straps, etc. If those options are not there, and the part number, the SKU, doesn't have an S in front of it, then you're probably just looking at only brackets. But basically, if you're going to buy a system, everything's discounted a little bit. So every time you add something to your cart, the sale price or the discounted price gets increasingly bigger from full retail. So the more you buy, the more you save.
That's a really cool feature. Yeah, it's a really nice incentive for people to try and not piecemeal stuff together and try and get brackets from you and joints from somewhere else and coilovers from somewhere else and everything. Which is really, in my opinion, the benefit of shopping with 4Wheel Underground in the first place is that you do have everything available for suspensions. And so it's kind of like, just get everything there because you know that you've done the work to make sure that it all works together, or else you wouldn't put it together.
Yeah, we've got all the links are welded together, so you don't have to, ask how long do I make them and then cut them and then weld them and worry about the threads getting all warped from welding and whatnot. All of that's done for you. The valving on the shocks, spring rates on the shocks. We send out questionnaires. That way, we get it right the first time. And if we don't, part of our service is that you're not going to pay for a revalve or springs if what we do is not working for you. And that's one of the big benefits of why, if you're shopping for coilovers and you're already looking at buying one of our systems, stick around for the coilovers. Not everybody wants Radflow, but then again, not everybody wants Boxer King. So there's always something for someone. But as far as the service aspect goes, I'm not going to ignore the customer and say, hey, I'm sorry you don't like the ride quality. Have fun, bye. That's
good luck
not really my that's not my business motto. So I want the customer saying, I'm glad I went with 4Wheel Underground. My truck's awesome. So.
And that's what you did with me too. I mean, my front has been pretty dialed in. It works great. My rear end, we had some spring rate issues. You sent me the new springs. We got the springs swapped out, and man, it's so cool. I didn't understand go fast desert stuff. Like it just didn't make sense to me because all I was doing in the past was narrow Toyota axles on leaf springs with no bump stops.
That's not a high-speed recipe.
That's not a high-speed recipe. And so now that I have, got to play around with coilovers and air bumps and a linked geometry out in the desert, it's pretty cool feeling the suspension work underneath your vehicle while you're doing 40, 60, 70 miles an hour through some pretty fun terrain. So
you got bit by the speed bug a little bit there, did you?
A little, but I also hit something really hard. So I'm also kind of like, I don't know if I want to go that fast all the time. I like my rock crawling.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's the high speed stuff is addicting. It's also very, very destructive to a rock crawler.
Yeah. And things can just go bad so quickly. And typically the quicker they go bad, the worse the bad is as well. So
most definitely.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm still not hooked on it, but I can see the allure. I understand now the allure as to why people are addicted to going fast. So.
Right. Yeah. And then how much faster are you able to get through the Rubicon now versus before?
That's a good, I haven't done I guess, I mean, we did that one run.
Yeah, but
where we took the dude from New Zealand.
Yeah. You had a guy a rookie driving for a part of it.
That's true.
I mean, let's put it this way. How fast did you go from Tahoma to Rubicon Springs?
With the new suspension?
Yes.
I went, was it an hour?
Yeah. It was around an hour.
An hour to an hour, 15 minutes, I think, somewhere around there.
And it took me an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah. I think the time that Jimmy
did it about 30 minutes faster than, if not a little more.
I was going to say, you had about a 35% speed reduction in time there.
Yeah. And I don't think I was really pushing it either. Like I went up and down Cadillac Hill 4 or 5 times during Rubathon last year.
Okay.
And I was able, typically with the leaf spring setup, I was doing Cadillac Hill, just the hill itself, not the run out to Tahoma, in about 45 minutes to an hour. On the new setup, I can do it in about 15 minutes without really trying and pushing. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
That's a lot faster.
Yes.
That's a lot faster.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
sweet.
Yeah. What else? Anything else have you been up to before we start looking at kind of closing this up here and getting and schedule have you back on?
Before we jump off the website, Are you doing a portion of your sales are going to an off-road advocacy group?
That did not work out the way I wanted it to. I haven't been able to get that set up on the website to actually do that. I can't quite consume the web guy's time like that. What I am doing, however, is I am donating to Blue Ribbon Coalition every month.
Oh, cool.
Got it. Okay.
Sweet.
So
that
that's
works
awesome.
out. So it might be a future, something in the future.
Well, you guys led the way on that, honestly. I mean, I sit there and I listen to Ben and I listen to you guys talk. I listen to Wheel Wine and Whiskey talk. And I can't not get involved and help where I can. So
yeah,
that's
thank
really
you
cool.
guys for making the rest of us aware of what we didn't know was going on.
Well, thanks for saying that. Yeah.
Yeah.
As 3 business owners in the off-road community, if we can't support our own cause and community, we're not going to have businesses.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Cool, man. That's pretty awesome stuff. Yeah. Raising the awareness about off-road issues and trail closures out there is definitely something that Jimmy and I wanted to do. I guess it's an unintended good consequence that has come out of raising awareness, is that we're starting to hear about more businesses in the off-road industry that are kind of stepping up and doing the similar stuff. So it's really cool.
You have to.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, you have to. You have to.
Yep. Sweet, man. Anything else that we can cover here and get updates on how 4Wheel Underground has been doing, how Brian's been doing?
Brian's been doing very good. Things have been going very well. We are going to try and do a kind of a matching gas tank for the 3rd gen 4Runners here to complement the suspension if you choose to go 4-link. And then we are looking to do it with using the factory fuel pump and pickup tubes and fill hoses or maybe not the fill hoses, but fill locations. So
interesting. So you said 4-link.
Well, yeah, 4-link. So if you wanted to go 4-link, if you were like, man, I don't like those 3-links, they got that stupid tan hard. That's fine. Then what we're trying to do is provide a gas tank that's not an actual fuel cell, and we're not forcing you to go buy a new pump and rewire and all of that jazz. So we're trying to build a gas tank that just uses the components you already own, and then get you into a 4-link if that's the way you want to go.
So you're relocating the gas tank then too, right? Or did you find a way to squeeze it in there with a 4-link?
No. No such thing ever going to happen on that one. Yeah. No. I had aspirations for that once upon a time and built a mock-up gas tank for it, and it looked like something off of Star Trek, and this is a little bit too much.
It's going to be like a pizza, like 3 pizza wedges put together or something.
It looked like a pontoon boat slammed into a bus or something. I mean, it was a little on the weird side.
I love it.
But it was a little too complex and a little too vehicle specific. So I backed out of that one. But yeah, no, we're trying to do a gas tank rear mounted behind the axle. You get rid of the spare tire back there. You can put cantilevers on the side if you want, and you can run a 3-link or 4-link. You can go triangulated or parallel. It doesn't matter. It's not going to care.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
I have more questions about gas tanks, but we can save that for another episode too.
They never end from that guy.
No.
That's pretty cool, man. I love the stuff that you're doing. Are you looking at, you do a lot of work on, 2nd, 3rd gen 4Runners, mini trucks. Are we looking at possibly maybe getting into other vehicles in the future, or are you keeping it pretty old school?
Funny you should ask. We're just placed our purchase order for our first offerings on a 2nd and 3rd gen. All I'm going to say is it's for the rear.
2nd, 3rd gen Tacomas?
I'm sorry. I should specify, shouldn't I? 2nd and 3rd gen Tacoma owners hopefully are going to be pleasantly surprised here hopefully within the next 3 to 4 months. Finally got our finished drawings done, and we're undergoing prototyping as we're waiting for Laser to give us our prototype so we can put it together. But second and third gen owners who want rear suspension aren't going to be waiting too much longer, I hope.
Oh, Jimmy just ran out the studio. He said something about driving over to Arizona right now. There he goes.
Okay.
I'll be there in 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
No, that's cool.
Yeah. Look for that. We definitely want to get into the market for the second and third gen Tacomas. Still kind of up in the air on what we want to do with the 4Runners. That one's a little bit harder of a platform, but it's definitely something we're looking to do as well. So
very cool. Well, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to get that teaser out there for people that you're not just taking and keeping 4Wheel Underground and kind of the older Toyota platforms, which is definitely what 4Wheel Underground is known for. But that's going to be fun. I think a lot of fun to see what you end up doing with kind of newer platforms here over the next few years. So
I've got some big aspirations for these platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to lie. I'm biting off a lot, and stay tuned because I think it's going to be fun.
Cool. I like it, man. Sweet. If anybody has extra questions for you, and 4Wheel Underground or how Brian's been doing, questions for Brian's face, where can people find you and get a hold of you at?
You can find us on Facebook or Instagram at 4Wheel Underground, or email us at info@4wheelunderground.com.
Sweet. And then we've got a voicemail too. So if people wanted to call in and had a question that you wanted to vocalize to Brian, we can definitely get that recording over to him and see if we can get Brian to answer it on a show. We'll have him on for a snail mail episode and see if we can get some answers to voicemails. I think it'd be fun too. So
perfect.
Sweet, man. Jimmy, how can people get a hold of us if they have feedback for Brian's face?
Yeah, you can call us and get your voice over to Brian's face at 916-345-4744. You can email Jimmy or Tyler at Snail Trail 4x4. You can hit us up on Instagram. I'm over at Snail Trail 4x4. Tyler's at 4x4 Toyota Tyler.
Sweet. Let's see. I guess that brings us to the end where we get to wrap things up. So, Jimmy James, Mr. Jet, do you have any final words for everybody out there?
I need to take my 4Wheel Underground kit off of the Morphlate shelves here soon.
You do. I want to see those get put on. Brian, do you have any final words for everybody out there to wrap up the show?
Stay tuned, guys.
I love it. And thanks for coming on. As always, looking to have more episodes with you here in the future. And with that, my friends, keep crawling.
Scientists did a study on tall kids. They found they sleep longer.
That's good. That makes sense.
Yep.
Here you go.
Perfect.